this is our 78 Pinto cruising wagon. As Amy says, so ugly, it is awesome. It is in the shop, one, because it has some necessary upgrades, because this thing needs to be spending a lot more time on the road and not in the showroom getting polished and stared at. And two, because it is getting ready for its biggest unveil of its life. We are going to be gifting this car to our daughter for graduating college and being full of BS. Now she got 2 BS's at Platteville, and she actually graduated last week. She's got a big party coming up, and for 5 years we have kept this a secret. When this car was sitting in the side of the lot covered in rats and rusty and in definite need of some help, we would catch her sitting in this thing and pretending to drive it. So, unbeknownst to her, we hope, for 5 years, and she would never, I don't think in a million years, think she would ever get something this cool. So we are definitely going to make sure that it is absolutely perfect when she gets it. We're going to start taking a few things apart, getting some upgrades, getting it all ready to go, and we're going to plop a big bow on the top of this thing, and that's it.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to get into it.
Alright, major thing was getting these side pipes off so I can get this on the lift safely without having to block it up or anything. Got it pretty well lined up. I got the hood, and Amy got some of this stuff off of the front that I know eventually we're going to have to take off, because we're either going to have to lift this motor or the motor's going to have to come out, because I need to get to the oil pan. Alright, so first thing we had was there was some clunking going on back here in the rear end, and since we completely hand fabricated and engineered all of the suspension in the rear, changing out and using some Heim joints and parts and stuff that we got from Summit and from Heights suspension, and then we used the 8.8 rear end that the Mustang had in it. So I ended up shortening the tubes on this thing, doing all kinds of things to make room. Was making a little clunking noise. It wasn't like a huge slam or anything, but something I wanted to take a look at. So let's come around here. And there you go. This brake tab right here was obviously hitting that on the underside of the frame. So we just need to relocate where that brake bracket is, straighten out these lines and stuff, make sure none of that stuff has been compromised at all, and we'll get that back together. And if everything goes this easy, that'd be awesome, but both sides. So that will completely solve our rear end problem. All right, so now that we are up under the front end, this is a whole completely different animal. So in order to get the 3.7 Cyclone in here, it is a much taller motor, and to make it fit under the hood, we dropped it down quite a bit down into the chassis. We found a pan that had a nice little recess spot in it so that the cross member could fit in between the transmission and the motor, but there wasn't enough room for the rack to also sit up where it was. So I re-welded some mounts, moved the rack down, thought that I could put some lowered tie rod ends on the end. They're not on right now, but lowered that end of the tie rod down and hoped that that would fix it. Unfortunately, that made probably the worst bump steer I think I've ever had in a car. So I then came up with and engineered these little brackets here that actually have a machine piece that goes to the end of the rack. It lifts the end of the tie rod up to the optimal position, perfectly in line with the lower control arm. And then we added this piece of D shaft to strengthen it, so when that tie rod end got pushed down, it wasn't relying on the rack only for strength, that this little solid bar underneath would ride back and forth with the rack, but also have support. So that fixed our bump steer and all those problems, but as you can see, it was already starting to bend where that D shaft attaches under here, and this was just not something I felt comfortable having anybody driving down the road, and I should not have been doing it myself. So the plan here is we are going to mark this pan, notch the pan out where it needs to be, get this rack up into its normal position, and hopefully solve all of the problems. So first thing I need to do is figure out where I need to cut this to get the rack up into position, and then I need to figure out whether I need to yank this motor to get the pan out. So fun, let's get to it. So a bit of cutting, moving, changing things around, a lot of stuff to weld back in afterwards, but everything was stable and overbuilt the first time, so welding everything back together is fine. Nothing moved, shifted, changed. We don't have any weight on it, so that helps a ton. But I did get the old oil pan cut out and got the rack up where I would like to have it. So instead of trying to TIG weld on this thing that's been full of oil and just crazy impurities and junk, I ordered a brand new oil pan, made my marks to match the other one with a few small improvements. I'm going to get this cut out, take this sheet of aluminum, get it bent up and cut and trimmed to fit in place, and get this thing TIG welded so we can put this thing back together. Getting ready to cut this piece, I put a straight edge across. Got the oil pan back from Brandon. He got this done for us in record time. Beautiful job. It's all sealed up, ready to go in the car. I had him throw an AN fitting end on here so we could throw a dipstick in here, being that where we trimmed this out is where the original dipstick went. So I took the original dipstick out, cut the end of it off, made my own flexible dipstick tube out of some AN lines. This now will just slide right in there. And then we just mark the end with a grinder. So we will always know that this thing has oil in it. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the Ultra Black, clean up the gasket surface under there, get this thing in, and start throwing the rack and everything back together. for a second, then we'll torque all these down. And then it looks like I'm a little tight right here on my fitting. So I'm gonna have to grind this little corner off of this. But all of this stuff needs to be cleaned up for me to weld that tube back in here and clean this up so that I can weld this cross member back in across here. But I didn't want to do any of that with the bottom of the motor open. So let this sit for a minute and then get this torqued down. I made sure to put plenty of ultra black in the corners and the creases here because up front we have 3 different pieces going together, and technically this timing cover should go on after the oil pan and everything, or at the same time, so you can get them all pieced together. But I think this will work out fine. This is how I threw it together the first time, and it didn't leak or have any issues there, so fingers crossed we have the same luck we did last time. All right, I am super excited. It just doesn't seem that way because I've been at this all day and I am tired. But the oil pan is in, everything is sealed up, torqued down, dipsticks in, the rack is in. I've got the tie rods hooked up. I did a quick little eyeball just to see if the wheels look straight. I mean, they are at full droop right now, so it's nowhere near any kind of alignment at all whatsoever. Once we drop it on the ground, I'll do a little better measure front and rear of the tires with the steering wheel centered, and I'll get it as close as I can for now, just to take it for a test drive. Make sure we don't have any of those huge bump steer issues or problems that we had before we did this. But this has been a long time coming. I've been planning on doing this for quite some time. I've actually tried every other trick in the book to correct this thing, and none of the stuff worked. In fact, I even machined a piece to go onto the rack to actually raise the inner tie rod area up higher to get around this pan, and none of that stuff worked. I mean, in fact, raising that up and machining that piece got rid of the bump steer, but it was not near strong enough for it to last. I mean, I think I drove it for 20 miles or something. It was already starting to bend, so we would have to have a significantly stronger rack and a completely different setup to make that work. But if you're interested, I did do a video on that whole thing and how I built it and machined it and everything. If somebody comes up with a beefier, better version of that, that would be cool to see. But next thing I'm gonna do is clean this paint off of this stuff, get everything nice and cleaned up, weld up these cross members and anything that I had to cut and trim out of the way, get it painted, and get this thing on the road, see what she does. everything is now welded up in here and in place where it needs to be, tightened up, ready to go. The only thing we got to deal with is these tie rods once it comes down. So I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff painted so it is protected from any kind of rust or any issues like that with some KBS top coat. And then we can get this thing down on the ground, deal with that battery. Okay, we've got her back on the ground. Everything is good. I've got it at 67 and just a hair under 3/4 in the rear and 68 3/4 in the front. So she is just a hair closer in the back. I think that should be pretty good, especially with the little redneck measuring system I've got. It's pretty close to being towed out just a teeny bit. Might not be enough. We'll find out when it goes to the alignment shop. I kind of have a bet going with myself every time we go to see how close I can get these things before they go in for alignment. So I am going to hopefully fire this thing up. We should be really good with that battery that we just bought. It's at full charge. We had a very small compartment to fit a battery, so it's not a huge cranking amp battery. So hopefully this is good enough to do what it needs to do. So I am going to go ahead, fire this thing up, back it out of here, and get it next door so I can get her cleaned up, washed up. Bring her back in here, back it in. It gets a little bow on it, and it should be ready for its debut tomorrow. I cannot believe I pulled this off. Man.
Now I'll fix that.
What?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Jeez.
Not bad for a car older than you guys, ain't it?